All right, let's get started. Przemek, thanks a lot for agreeing to meet and do this recording. Could you say a few words about yourself and your media group? What region do you operate in? Please introduce yourself.
Sure. It's the 4media group, though actually just recently the name of my business was changed to Hartmann Media Consulting. That happened about 6 months ago, but actually the company has been on the market for about 11 or 12 years now. As for the portal itself, we just celebrated our 12th anniversary in February. Well, the portals that operate in Kujawy also reach a bit into Pałuki. At one point, we also managed to take over a portal in Koronowo. So we try to keep that one going too, with varying degrees of success. But the ultimate flagship portal of this business, which I've been running for years, is mojakruszwica.lh.pl. It's the most widely read portal, the one I've put a lot of personal work into. As someone who basically started out as a regular, let's say, journalist, editor, but later transitioned more into a publisher because, well, at some point it was only right for this business to start generating some income, so that it made more sense than just reporting and posting without any real seriousness.
Super, to spora historia. From what I know, it's also quite a history with CMSs. We're definitely not the first CMS you've worked with. Tell me, what specifically made you start looking for an alternative to your previous provider?
Yes, like you mentioned, this isn't my first CMS provider. In general, early on, we had our own custom solutions. And here, if there are publishers listening who are just starting out or aren't part of any network, I'll say this: I had major doubts about joining a network like yours. But those doubts were mostly fears about losing independence, interference in our workflow, and so on. However, looking back, maintaining our own CMS, our own solutions, which were often amateurish, I really have bad memories of that, very bad. And I worked on it with one other person, a partner in this portal. And I really remember the blood, sweat, and tears of that first portal of ours, our first solutions, and how the site would just break down on us so often. There were all kinds of issues, and we were left to deal with them on our own. So that's why network solutions are so good for small publishers. I'd say I'm one of those small publishers. Just to have that technological backing, our last partnership actually ended in March. Since April 1st, I've been working with you. And, well, that was partly because I wanted to make the CMS a bit more professional. It was also a response to certain pain points we had in previous setups, including advertising issues, which effectively prevented readers from actually reading the content. We got a lot of complaints about that. Readers aren't always understanding either. They expect access to straightforward content that won't be blocked by ads, but well, things were hit or miss. That's why we were looking for a new CMS provider, a new partner, plus the opportunity to develop the portal a bit, but maybe we'll get into that in more detail with the next questions.
Probably, yes. Right. You know what? A few days after launch, you wrote to me saying the site was faster, cleaner, and free of intrusive ads, end quote. After these 2 months of working with us, since we've been at it since April 1st and today is June 5th, have those positive feelings of yours lasted? Tell me.
Yes, absolutely. We don't have those difficult, heavy, resource-intensive ads anymore. I think we've found good solutions here in terms of how the template looks. Above all, there's also the option of how we add our own custom ads, so to speak, because there's a whole system built for that. I think if anyone is interested in that, talking to you will give them the whole package of information. But we also add ads in a slightly different way in basically any format, because the flexibility of this template means we can place it as an ad virtually anywhere. And that's a very big deal, right? Because
You actually described our CMS as very extensive, but making a lot of sense. So tell me, what specific features or modules are the most effective for you in your daily work?
what impressed me most, actually, as you said, was the CMS itself being quite extensive. I'll put it this way: I'm used to working on CMSs that were much simpler, or even the systems we worked on before. As for our amateur solutions, they were also very basic. But here, we actually have what you could call a media environment as a publisher, meaning it's not just a place to add articles, but also, well, to plan your content and use modules that engage users, like adding quizzes, for example. We have a really cool setup. The Classifit module has taken off really well. Now it works great. People are interested in it. We didn't have that before. That was because the template didn't really allow for promoting those listings, right? Obviously, as publishers, we also compete with buy and sell groups on Facebook. A lot of people post their stuff there, often just posting without even checking if the ad actually got published or not. So that makes it a bit difficult nowadays to, first of all, get page views on those listings, and second, to try and monetize them. We actually haven't introduced fees for listings yet, but you have a good solution for that too, because there are paywalls here. Yes, we can choose a provider and easily try to make money from it. In addition, on the Kruszwica portal, I've been testing different ways to expand on this a bit, the capabilities of this CMS, meaning adding various engaging modules. Whether it works or not, well, you have to test it. For my part, I tried pasting different kinds of materials using HTML code. I don't know, I created an entertainment zone, tried putting in a game, and to be honest, I know from experience with those previous solutions that if I had pasted HTML code for a game on the portal that had to load, it would have severely slowed down the template, the page. That doesn't happen here. I did quite a lot of work on that homepage, added a lot of content. You can check it out. And the page really doesn't freeze. The page doesn't crash, and it also opens quickly, because that's something publishers have to pay attention to, and they definitely do. Today, as consumers and readers, we are completely geared toward fast access to content. That's why Facebook is often so draining for us. And the moment a page takes several seconds or even longer to load, with ads popping up one after another, then naturally the bounce rate of those users is going to be high, because rarely is anyone that patient nowadays, especially to put up with those kinds of setups. So the page really just has to load faster. But also the way galleries are presented, the option of a masonry gallery or other solutions are very cool features, because you also have to get a feel for your readers. We're also checking which galleries are popular with our audience. These are galleries that, for example, show a few photos at a time, and you can click through them, generating more page views that way. But I assume readers vary. It might put some people off, while others might be used to scrolling through galleries from top to bottom. We're still checking how that looks, which solutions are better. It's just so happened that in April, we mostly used the first option, meaning photos stacked from top to bottom under the article. Obviously, those didn't generate page views, but they did increase the user's time on page, for example. And now we have galleries where you have to click through a few photos at a time. And that's how we engage the reader. And we're keeping an eye on
A hybrid gallery where you have 3 photos set up and then another click through. So that's probably a compromise between a single click through and that masonry gallery. You also mentioned that you have several sites with us, because it's 6 sites that you migrated to us. And tell me, is there any mechanism that allows you to manage content from one place?
Yes, there is such a mechanism. It's called multi-site. If anyone was interested in such a solution, they can easily just redirect their content. And something that also worried me somewhere at the beginning of our cooperation, whether shared content passed on to other portals would cause Google to perceive it poorly, and this multi-site, this duplicate content, turns out it doesn't work that way. Besides, you personally explained to me how it looks. It looks pretty good. We can, of course, at any time in any place, even choosing from the position of one CMS, choose where in the second CMM, in the second portal, it will be placed, whether this publication will be immediate or later. That's already an additional matter, and above all, it doesn't hurt SEO. Google doesn't perceive it poorly because it mainly supports this main portal, the so-called source. So it's a very good solution because we often have content that we exchange between portals. Well, there is shared content, you could say, that fits both here lose don't. There's readers don't lose out, and we also don't have to add the same content, well, 2 or 3 times or write the same thing 3 times. That certainly makes our work much easier.
You mentioned that the CMS is extensive, but tell me, is it easy to use? Is it intuitive? Because does that go hand in hand?
Yes, at first, actually, my first reaction was like, oh dear, a very large, complex system. And how am I going to figure it out now? But I'll be honest, it took, I don't know, maybe 5 days, maybe even a bit less. With more frequent contact with the CMS, it turned out that actually this system is very simple and this system makes sense, right? If we consider the way articles are published or the way these galleries are published or the way photo galleries are presented for articles, because we can place these galleries in the article, we can place them under the article, we can add additional related galleries. That is also an additional definite asset that in this way we can link these articles or go back to some memories from last year, so or from a few years ago. So that's a very cool thing. It makes sense in the case of all our materials. You can also drag and drop these materials in a very simple way. That's definitely on the training sessions. If someone comes, wants to, is interested, they will be able to see. But it also looks very cool that, of course, we can upload some photos or materials using the traditional method, but we can also drag them. And that for me is a great thing.
You just mentioned training. Tell me, was there proper onboarding and training from our side for you and your team? How do you rate this process?
Definitely, yes. We had at least a few good training sessions. I don't know, probably about 5 or 4, but there was a lot of it. Um, of course, our editorial work also meant that we didn't have that much time. You had time for us, we for you, but actually, those training sessions were well developed and the support is there all the time, right? So it's like the publisher comes in, they're not left alone in their actions, but they have access to this knowledge and they have access to all this information. And actually to every request there is an answer. There is support that is on watch here and responds. So we are, I think, well trained. I mean, we have the kind of knowledge that gives us peace of mind, and the rest, well, of course, you have to discover for yourself.
At 4Medium, we have a different business model. It's not a free CMS like you had elsewhere, but well, you pay us a subscription. Tell me, how do you rate this change for you, the subscription fee too, versus product quality? Did this change make sense from your point of view?
I think that every publisher, I mean, otherwise, a publisher who starts with a free CMS and free solutions is used to such solutions, and it's logical that no one would want to add, like, incur additional costs. However, I'll say this: I've been active on this internet, so to speak, for, well, over a dozen years now, and now I see how the internet is changing, the internet in general, but also systems, applications, software. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there is no good software that is free. You just have to assume right away that by paying, well, we see it with AI or any other programs, that actually free solutions okay, maybe they exist. You can still get by on that for a bit, but you won't do anything more with it. And actually, here you have this business model in the form of paid access to the CMS. However, I'll say this: I came in with 6 sites, so well, those are some costs, but it seems to me that it's better to incur costs and pay for a system that is stable, good, and which is a professional system than to use free solutions that simply cause it's obvious that this partner who offers us this type of cooperation will simply have to make up for that fee. There's nothing for free in life, so if they make up for it, they will make up for it in different ways. They will usually clutter us with ads because they will have to make up for it. I think it's not worth it, especially nowadays when we have to fight for traffic on our portals because social media is cutting us all off, taking away these various opportunities. We have to fight for traffic. And in this case, when we are, well, limited by such ads to make up for that free CMS for it to make some sense, well, I think it's not worth it. So I believe it's simply better to pay for such a professional technological environment and, well, enjoy a portal that is, well, professional. Above all, it's flexible, right? Each of the publishers can make it the way they want, within reason, of course. But adding various types of content in any place, changing it the way they really want, because we have different solutions. Like we also have different thoughts, right? I have a portal in Kruszwica, I have a portal in Strzelno, where people are interested in completely different content. And like I also understand that this way of arranging this content or the way of some module that is present has an impact on how people perceive it later. There are simply modules that interest one town more. Let's say my hometown, which is Kruszwica, is largely based on history. So here you can easily work with that. But for example, there is a portal in Janikowo that values current, up to date news and modules with history rather less. So that's why I think such flexibility in this CMS, precisely in such a paid solution, is simply good.
Right? But we also work together on advertising. It's not like you don't get ads from us, both ads and sponsored articles. Tell me, was the ad report you received from us clear to you? Did you get explanations for the individual items in that report? How do you perceive it?
Yes, that report was actually very clear. It was accessible. You could review everything, all that information, where those amounts come from, what the user engagement was as well, how it all calculated. It wasn't some kind of black magic sent in some Word document saying the publisher made this much. Actually, according to our agreement, we split those profits 50-50, so you can calculate it yourself. But with the first report, I was actually surprised by the accuracy of that information. However, I did send quite a few questions to you about some additional issues related to that earned to the earned income from those ads, and I actually received a clear, detailed report, detailed information. Besides, I'll say this: I'm very satisfied because before we started working together, we also discussed the contract a lot. We could also fine tune that contract along the way, change certain things that suited me better. And it was great because we met halfway. So answering that question, the contract report was definitely clear and transparent. I got a comprehensive answer to all my questions, and I think it was very transparent.
Super. Well, CMS migration always involves data migration, right? And that's a big fear for a publisher. We did a post-migration audit for you, and we see a significant increase in traffic because Google Discover is up 40% month on month. Google News is up 14% with no drop virtually in search engine traffic. Tell me, how do you evaluate this whole migration process and our work on it? Did we manage to solve the problems you were struggling with?
Yes, when it comes to migration, well, for every publisher, it's a difficult moment, I think, because we had a choice here: either we do this migration or we let it go. On some portals, we actually archived that database, but we didn't migrate it. However, in the case of portals like Coronova or Groupix, here we actually migrated the entire database, and there was a lot of it. Well, I don't know how many articles there were, that information, photos, all of that. So this migration went, you could say, perfectly, despite, well, some fears that it might not be so. Obviously, it also took time for everything to get indexed. In the process, well, I also learned a few things about how the portal functioned before. Well, I gained a lot of that knowledge, and what, above all, what will be fixed, right? Which includes broken links from previous setups. That definitely here stopped, so to speak, being a problem for the current situation. And actually, the biggest fear was about that loss of traffic. And I'll say frankly right away that, in a sense, that loss of traffic always occurs, because obviously the reader has to get used to it, has to navigate through the new site. I already have contact with many different readers, and I also ask around a lot about how they evaluate the solutions we manage to introduce. I'll say this, well, reactions are mixed, right? Well, they enter, it's not the same site, I'm leaving. So, like, okay, this traffic has to actually settle down. We are at the beginning of June, so we have April behind us, which, well, was completely a test month, you could say. It would be hard to evaluate it. May, I think, was already a month where, well, above all now, probably around the middle of the month, when we summarize it, we'll see that it worked out really, really well. But I can see since June just how nicely it's running. Above all, as you said, traffic from Google increased. Practically all of that Google search was maintained. Here, I actually took the liberty of writing down, among other things, that Discover, that is, it grew by almost 41%, and that Google News by 14.9%. I'll say this, there was also a moment when that portal started disappearing from Google. So let's say, as a publisher, more as a journalist, I'm not an IT specialist, but it worried me a bit. But it started coming back, right? I am being displayed in Google News suggestions more and more often. And for me, that is proof that it actually went really well. Well, and I think it can only get better. Above all, I also see, because your CMS system is designed in such a way that it also has statistics connected to it regarding how many page views, users, and so on we had in a given month. Well, I'll say this. In the case of Świecie and Koronowo, because it is the most representative portal, there was an increase in the number of users here, in the sense that there are definitely more of them. I believe last year, somewhere around, well, the summer holidays, there were about 90,000 of those users. And now, from what I saw, there are about 115,000 a month. So, yes, definitely it grew. And it used to be that of course it looked different in different months. Well, there were more holiday months, close to 90,000, but then it also dropped to 60,000 and so on. Whereas now I see that it constantly stays above 100, and, well, and it's constantly growing. So I see that this system simply reaches the user, not necessarily just the local user. And that's exactly what I also cared about a lot, because I come from a small town. This portal is also geographically in a very small town, so we are looking for solutions that will allow this portal to constantly grow through content that is not only local but also nationwide.
You're also testing our AI solutions, Przemek, because I can't imagine not going for it, looking at how technology and the market are developing and how much it makes publishers work easier. Tell me, what are your impressions after a few weeks of testing our systems, this AI assistant of ours?
Yes, actually, when it comes to the AI assistant, there is this option where it will generate the most suitable title for us, but also materials for positioning. It will generate all the tags. Of course, we can do this manually, like we can create this kind of content, but I think it makes the work much easier and nicer. And I think it selects those tags really well, because this whole AI system, which I've also been testing here for about 2 weeks now, gives you options like setting the tone, for example, or a certain character for the AI assistant, whether the content should be, say, created in this format or that format. So that's the whole. I haven't tested all of these solutions, absolutely not, because there's a lot of it, but it definitely makes things much easier for users. I know that typing tags manually every time when we're in a hurry with an article, because sometimes we just need to post some news quickly. So in this case, it works instantly, and I just know that this assistant is also well designed. I mean, it won't work in a way that hurts positioning because there are various, well, legends or stories about that. You could say that AI somehow hurts portals, hits publishers. Well, I think there are no such problems here, but it works well. It definitely makes it easier and, above all, speeds up the work.
Great. Well, behind that are over 70 prompts, several models. A different model is connected to each module. So there's been a lot of testing on our side. Tell me, Przemek, how do you rate our support, contact with our team? We talk rarely, like once a month directly with me, but you probably contact Monica or Kuba more often. Tell me, how do you rate this day-to-day support from our side?
Yes, as for the support, here we actually were, I'll put it this way. During the migration, especially at the beginning, after the migration, maybe in April, at the very beginning, I didn't feel sidelined in any way, meaning I felt that really, even that maybe I was abusing it a bit. The fact that you were literally at my disposal. So, in a way, during this the work was really done. And any signals that something might be wrong, like Google notifications regarding the indexing of this content and so on, you helped me index all of this content, all of these materials, somehow make them available. Even recently, I had this issue with one of the ad providers. There was some content showing up that didn't actually appear. Maybe it was published at a time when the database dumps weren't running anymore, and you even helped me with that. So I think that here, really, a publisher who joins your network can just count on support that is available and that you can simply rely on.
One last question, Przemek, which I just have to ask. Would you recommend us to other publishers working on other solutions?
Yes, definitely. I think it's worth meeting with you, talking. From my own experience, obviously, we've been working together for almost 3 months now. It'll be 3 months in a quarter. But I can already see after these 2 months that it works the way it should. It makes perfect sense. Above all, you also have ideas for the future. And that's also a cool thing. But you also have rich experience because you run portals outside of Poland as well. You also have publishers in the United States. So also solutions regarding servers, which you mentioned to me once. Those are very innovative things. But I think for all publishers who are really looking for cool, good solutions and professional ones, I think they will find those opportunities with you. This media environment I mentioned is really extensive. We can cover matches, we can add streams, we can add streams to the radio. Actually, the radio is something we still have in our plans. I mean, we already have hosting, we even have the music set up, but we want to move it to the portal as well so people can listen to the news there too. All of that is there. There is this whole possibility of presenting these materials. Above all, our business also involves publishing newspapers. So we will soon be using this e-edition, meaning the availability of our newspaper in PDF format. Using a paywall, people will be able to buy the newspaper. So I think if publishers who publish print or run portals are looking for solutions, this is definitely a good interesting solution to test, you can check it out. I think I'm satisfied after these 2 months, but also after testing it earlier, because we tested this system much, much earlier. And the possibilities that the CMS gave me, well, today they are practically unlimited, you could say, because to a large extent unlimited, because the ideas I come up with on the portal, the ways of presenting this content, really the way of presenting the modules too. Not every module has to look the same. These sections can differ in the amount of text, the amount of materials, how narrow that column will be. So really, basically, nothing limits us now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the chat, and I'm crossing my fingers for your growth. And remember, we have our quarterly meetings every quarter where we also talk about what's coming up and listen to you guys. If you have any ideas for development, then we'd be more than happy to take any suggestions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.